Hello everyone. Welcome to CSD's webinar. We will start in just a few minutes. Let more people join the Zoom. We'll start in about 2 minutes. I can see the number of participants growing as time passes, so I want to give everyone the opportunity to join. I hope everyone is staying warm. I know a lot of the US is really cold today, so I just hope you're all staying warm. I still see more and more people joining. Let's wait one more minute before we start. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to our CSD Core webinar. My name is Laura T. Peterson. My namesign is abbreviated LTP. And I want to welcome the presenters that we have today. It's very exciting. I know maybe some of you have joined our webinar last month with the presenter Rachel Zemek, who wrote the book, The Butterfly Cage. And I think this is a really nice next webinar because the book, The Butterfly Cage, did focus on the scarcity of resources available to teachers when they're developing and thinking about which curriculum to use. Therefore, I'm really excited to share our new curriculum that really focuses on the accessibility of deaf children. So I want to go ahead and introduce our two presenters, Todd Chubeck and
Hello, everyone.
Kristen DePerry. I'll turn it over to, actually, let me explain something first. So as you can see, we have a Q&A box. So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, go ahead and type them into the question box. Once the presentation has finished, we will then turn it over to the Q&A box and go through all your questions if we have time. We'll try to answer as many as possible, okay? Great. And so I'm very excited to introduce Todd and Kristen. I'd like to hand it over to you two now. Thank you, says Kristen.
Thanks, Laura, or LTP. I think before we actually start going on with our presentation, let's tell you a little about ourselves. And I'm going to let Kristen start. because I think you probably want to know who is presenting to you. And I think our background information is worth the knowledge to you all as participants.
Sure. Hello. I'm a teacher. I was a teacher for deaf children for many, many years. I am a hearing person, and I learned the hearing ways, the hearing approach to teaching. And so when I first started teaching deaf children here in Boston, I found that all my hearing ways of learning did not match that of a deaf child's needs. And it was very frustrating for me. And therefore, I started to look for more and more resources to help me become a better teacher for our deaf children. But upon this search, I realized there was not a lot. And this was in the 1980s. And even now, that there is still a scarcity of resources. And our deaf education field tends to borrow from hearing-based curriculums, and then we kind of have to tweak them to match that for deaf children, but that is just not successful, especially for grammar curriculums. We really need to support and really strengthen a deaf child's understanding for grammar, and therefore we felt that we really needed to include that in our curriculum.
Great, thanks, Kristen. Let me begin by saying I have a very similar story. I'm Todd Zubek. The current job that I have is teaching graduate students. They are studying to become teachers of deaf children. And Kristen was also involved with teacher practicums for those to become teachers. Now, before that experience, I would say for many years, I was a teacher, and I think not much different from Kristen's experience. And for many years, I could see the students making some progress. You know, it was okay, but it really wasn't what I was expecting. I think the students should be receiving, getting more, doing more. So I began to realize that something was missing, something was not there. And I was very aggravated by this. You know, I had a very similar idea that Kristen had, and it maybe by fate, where there was a confluence of both of us. And this is at Scranton State School for the Deaf. It's not there anymore, but we met there. And this is where this whole project began. It had its inception there. We planted a few seeds there on that site and had some serious and helpful realizations to reconfigure our approach. How do we teach English to deaf children, vocabulary learning? Where does ASL fit? What would its role be in this curriculum? And then many of the thoughts that we had began to link, and the result is the curriculum that we have created. All right, let me see. All right, I will begin with some commentary about BGC, the Bilingual Grammar Curriculum. I'm going to tell you all that it entails. This is just a general overview and some of its structure. Then we're going to jump into the curriculum. So get ready, because I really want you to see what this curriculum looks like, and more importantly, to understand how it works. And then there will be a lot of information for you that will be saved till the end. So all of the participants here, if you're interested or you need to know more, we will send you an email address, and please feel free to email either of us or both of us, because we can have a free participant license. I think it lasts approximately 10 days or 2 weeks, but gives you a chance to actually get in there and check out the website so that you can explore what all the features are, what it feels like. And so you would just say that you are a participant of the webinar that was hosted here at CSD, and we will definitely grant you access to the website for that limited time. All right. And I know that we're going to leave you a little bit hungry for more at the end of our presentation. And so what we've done is we've given you a chance to explore it yourselves once the webinar is open and you can get your feet dirty. All right, let me share my screen and make sure that everything is clear. You can see me and the PowerPoint presentation. All right, I just want to check and make sure that everyone here can see the PowerPoint. Okay, an important thing, and it's a little more information for you. I want to do a little disclaimer that we just flew back to Boston from being in California not that long ago. We took the red eye, and we were in California, and we had plenty of sunshine. There was warmth. Everybody loved the sunshine. Me too. I'm very fond of sunshine. And then I arrive in Boston, and it's totally gray, and the sunshine has gone away. Someone said that they can't see me. Let me see what happened. I know the interpreter must be seeing me. Can the interpreter see me? And both the screen and the presenter. All right, so that's been verified by the interpreter, so I'm going to move on. What I want to do first is to acknowledge that this was a lengthy journey, and it was the end product of many, numerous contributors. As we went through the journey, I have to say that we benefited from this, but more importantly, our students benefited, and we learned mutually, we learned from them as we were teaching them. We had deaf consultants, we had the students, we had people who observed us, gave us feedback as where we needed to make corrections. And there was this attitude, I would say, those of us who are BU products, they helped us understand in general that ASL has a role and that deaf children need to also own and acquire English as well. So we benefited from the feedback we got from them. We went on a journey of trial and error, and perhaps more errors than trials. But the end result, I think, is something that is good and is something that both of us are proud of, because it is the result of many partnerships, a lot of teamwork, a lot of collaboration, meaning here, friends, colleagues, so many people were involved in this process, and it's difficult for me to thank them individually, but I want them to be acknowledged. So, number one, what is BGC? Let me entail what it is, and we have bullet points here on the slide. It includes an organization of major ideas, what I call big ideas, the big ideas in grammar. The big ideas in grammar, we're going to call the anchors, the anchored standards. And each side of these anchor standards, we have benchmarks. We have those listed for the teachers. Now, those benchmarks will become the architecture of the curriculum, because we want to have a big idea that's broken into subparts. Basically, it's 3 of them, some a little different. The first part is constructing the concept of grammatical principles. Just what are the principles of a grammar? Secondly, we have the benchmarks, which is how we have these rules articulated. You know, the children can tell you, I know what an adverb does, and they will tell me what it does. And I know that it is one because of what I see. And I know what a verb is. And I know about tense. And it could give me all of those rules. But looking at the third benchmark, you're going to see that we try to elicit more application. So we say, can you produce an ASL, something in like a composition in ASL or in writing where you're going to need conjunctions, where you're going to have to conjugate the verbs, you're going to have to look for examples. So that's the third idea, where we have what they learned in rules applied and demonstrated. And now the curriculum itself, we're going to call it developmental. By that, we mean you get involved, first of all, in step 1, which is for all participants, whether they be elementary students, someone in middle school, or high school. Everyone begins at step 1. However, the pace for each of these groups will be different, and rightfully so. You would expect the children in high school to be much more, will be quicker in their progress, and those that need more support would be slower and maybe need more repetition. But each of the benchmarks has a list inside of lesson plans. And those lesson plans must have objectives, the materials, the teacher's pace and progress. We have downloadable worksheets. It includes videos, supporting videos. Let me see. It includes, well, at the very end of each benchmark, you will also have assessment. And it's formative assessment. And then at the very end, of course, we have the anchor standard with a summative assessment and evaluation. So everything is there for you. I guess that's one way I could put it. But Kristen and I always say, now this curriculum is what the two of us wish was there way back when we were teaching. It's like, boy, we did not have to adapt. We wouldn't have to change. We wouldn't have to do all that we did. It's directly applicable right now, right here. I'm going to be showing you more. And when you take the opportunity to get into the website, what you're going to look at, the opening page is what you see here, wherever I'm pointing to, where you can see the PowerPoint and you can see the various anchored standards. They're all listed for you numerically. When you click on one of those standards, what you will find are lists. The different benchmarks, you see those listed in the columns. We've got benchmark 1, 2, and 3, and then inside each benchmark is another list that includes, for example, the lesson plans. So let's say you decide to go into a lesson plan. There you would see the objective statements, the different materials, teacher notes, a guidance for you, because you know what happens. Like we said, well, the last time I thought about grammar was maybe when I was in 5th grade. That's been a number of years ago. We don't always remember or recall what the grammar function is or the rules. Not to worry, it's there. The explanation is there. It's intentional. We want you to know what the point is of the material that you will be going through with your students. Now the procedures. Well, it's easy. Just follow what's listed there. You go step by step by step. You hit next, you get to the next one. Another caveat, when I left CSD Fremont, I saw not just me, both of us saw so many examples of teachers who were very innovative. They were trying to create extensions of lessons. So they thought, what else would fit this objective? Oh, and I know some material that would be relevant for that. And so they were able to supplement, to extend these lessons, be innovative themselves. But, I get it. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. And if it doesn't, that's okay. Maybe you don't always have that approach available. Well, we now have a nice template and structure for you. And especially for the ASL component, the ASL side of the curriculum, all of the lessons have sample videos, ASL videos, things to practice, evaluation, and so on. It's all there. But the point of this curriculum, really, basically, is we try to ask ourselves, this is the time to think differently about teaching language. It's time to think differently. Do it differently. And it's important for us to understand, and you see what we've mentioned here. There are resources, but we don't always have them. And so sometimes we borrow them from programs and curricula that were planned for hearing children. And so you might be able to import some of that, but it doesn't always fit. Those resources don't always fit because they were not designed for deaf children. They weren't designed for a deaf child's experience. So you think about language instruction in a curriculum, all the assumptions are based on what the public schools use and what hearing children do and what hearing children know and what they will ever know, and how the curriculum was designed and what the practices are. They're based on L1, the children's L1. So it's based on knowledge they already know, a language they already use. Now we import that and try that to apply that to our classroom. Think about it. It's not going to work. And many people don't know English. I mean, you may know it in practice, but may not know the specifics. And so there are many ways that people fail, even on the English part of it. And all too often, ASL has tried to conform to the requirements and standards and the process and procedure of a hearing school, hearing children, L1. And we thought to ourselves, we really should be including an ASL component here. But the ASL process and procedure was still based on the curriculum used in public school for hearing children. And we continued to try to fit into that curriculum, and it was not a good fit. So finally, we had to take a time out. We said, why isn't this working? And what would happen if we reversed this and began with an ASL curriculum so things made sense to a visual language learner? That it made sense for our students who arrive at school. And so they may have different language expectations for an L1 and L2, ASL L1 and English L2. So the children come to school with a very strong basis in sign language. Their parents sign, maybe they have deaf parents. Well, that's a good fit. But what if the children arrive to school and they don't have that foundation in place? Well, this curriculum is a solution there because it is made ready to meet the students where they are. So I'm not going to apologize for trying to fit the public school curriculum, but we're going to put things, flip it on its head for a minute. We're going to look at a visually based principle of a language, visually based comprehension, the visually based architecture of understanding and meaning. And then English will conform more readily to that foundation. So we'll go through the process of developing ASL grammar, and then we'll also have some English construction as a part of it, but it doesn't mean directly importing wholesale what's used in the public school curriculum, because you have to think, how do deaf children think? How do they form a language? And how do they think about language? Do they do it literally as we see in print? We had so many questions about how to do this. So that's why we're flipping curriculum instruction on its head. We're beginning with ASL. I know, talk is easy, proof is cheap, but you've got to put money where your mouth is, right? So for that reason, we have a lot of evaluation included so that you see progress. Remember I talked about assessment? We have assessment at every lesson. Remember, we have objectives. And the objectives are performance-based objectives. That means the children have to finish something, produce something, and be proven by their evaluation. And then at the very, very end, we'll do the summative evaluation to prove that they have met the entire content of that lesson. Now, this is for both English and ASL. Both languages will have the summative assessment at the end. 80% or above is considered passable and mastering. With that, they can then move on to the subsequent lessons. All right. This is what I was talking about. At the end of each session, we have progress monitoring, and it looks like this chart you see here. We have a matrix listed because this is actually handy and helpful because it helps us where we need to revise the certain targeted areas of instruction. Maybe there are some students who need additional support. Maybe they'll do the first benchmark and then, unfortunately, they only achieve a 65%, so they're not at 80% yet. So now what do I do? Does that mean the teacher has to start all over again and the student has to start all over again? No, that's where you refer to this matrix, where you see the breakdown and you see which items that their skills are strong and which ones they need support. And then you could target an objective for that specific skill. We can teach smarter because we have the last one that you can check is your L in SLP, means language, right? You have your SLPs. All right, I just need you to work on that one. Or maybe you have a reading specialist, an ASL specialist, a literacy specialist. Any of your teachers' aides could sit down with your student because you can get targeted support for your student in those areas, like at a one-on-one level, and then they can continue on and make progress. I'm going to summarize this for you by giving you an inside look of what our website looks like. Let me check the question box. Do you want us, Kristen, did you have something that you wanted to say? You wanted to add later? Oh. I'll answer the time of Q&A. I don't see Todd. I'm wondering if Kristen can see me. I want to make sure that everyone can see me and the PowerPoint screen. All right, got feedback from the chat, from the team. Now let me show you an inside look at the curriculum. So let's start here. Remember, I told you that we will start at level 1. And you actually have several options. You can go through the ASL side or English side. It bifurcates there, but they're parallel constructions. There you'll see the different components of the anchor standard. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8. You might say, what happened to 3? What happened to 6? Well, in level 2, it's coming soon, because we want to make sure that everything spirals from one lesson to the next. And so in ASL 3, we'll be introducing pronouns, and then in ASL 6, we'll be introducing prepositions, and that will be added later. And so don't worry, because we need the children to have the other foundation that will flow together, spiral back, be supportive, so that they're ready for the conversations about pronouns and conversations about prepositions. One thing that is critical for us as you make your way through the BGC, look how the baseline assessments are applied. I'm going to take you here. There's a link that you would click on. This is ASL Baseline Assessment. From there, this is the ASL comprehension. It's a, composition to figure out how the students become aware of signing for an audience. And you don't have background knowledge. It would be as if you are signing, I want to maximize the clarity when I compose. After that, we ask them to say, let's look for sentence boundaries. And then you'll see that there's evaluations that the students can tell you that they see a sentence boundary, they see the stimulus. There's actually 2 ASL sentences that come close together. But with prosody, it's not a very well-formed utterance. Hold on a minute, let me look again. Oh, right, I have 2 sentences. And sentence 1 is a complete idea, separated from separate sentence 2, that is another complete idea. So you're giving them this beta awareness of how language works. So they can see that with a prosody, they need to have some punctuation. They see what the structure of a sentence is. They know how to form a complete idea. Now, the last one for ASL is what we call the ASL sentence judgment task. Basically, it's done in ASL with different types of sentences that have well-formed or error-prone sentences, and the students have to judge whether it's well-formed or not. Thumbs up, thumbs down. It's the same kind of evaluation that we use in the English component. So I'm going to jump to level 1 English now. And we have the English baseline evaluations here. Now, English has 4. And why 4? Because we have some additional vocabulary we have in this assessment. But if the students don't have that working vocabulary, how could they do English grammar, right? Because what if they don't know that particular word? That means they really can't read or evaluate the sentence on the judgment test, and Kristen will be explaining more about later. But I think this is one of the best things that happened. Kristen will say, can we control the vocabulary? We thought, yes, I think we can. So Kristen looked at frequency tests from her Bedrock literacy curriculum, looked at that, and we said, how can we limit the number of vocabulary or different vocabularies, the amount? Can we develop sentences based on that list? We had 216 words. That's it, just 216 words for level 1. They must know 260 words, 16 words, which doesn't sound like a significant amount, but let me tell you, this is a challenge sometimes in various programs. And, 216 words is really not asking a lot for level 1 and first graders. So every sentence is based on that list of 216 words. They're all composed of that. So we understand that comprehension of those students. We also have a written component, which is evaluated. Remember, we had ASL signed composition, and now we have a written composition. And you see the English sentence judgments. When you read it, you can say, yes, that's a well-formed grammatical sentence, or they would say, nope, there's something wrong with this sentence. And so look at number 4, we have boundaries, the sentence boundaries, which is different. And so we have this part. It's just like flashcards. Can you tell me what each of these words mean? Apple, doll, bark, ball, dog. And these are ranking. These are in ranking order. We were able to create some kind of evaluation for the students. We keep a record of this. After the students are finished with the English composition, we have, again, an assessment, and you'll see the matrix where things are rated. Are they demonstrating basic awareness of English structure? Here's the sentence judgment tasks. The students read the sentence and they have to tell you whether it's good or not, whether it's appropriate English or not. As you look down, you'll see that many of them will read the sentence and think they are fine and say yes. But do they really understand English structure? It doesn't seem like they do with the answers they give. Now let's look to the sentence boundary section for English. Now, the students need to look at the English here and decide where sentence 1 starts and where sentence 2 begins. All right, and we talked about the capital letters. It helps us know where you have a new sentence. And for ASL and English, they're very different and is modality driven. I'm going to look for the questions. It doesn't look like anyone has questions yet, so I haven't missed any. I want to show you some examples of each. I want you to see what these assessments look like. And remember, I'm not going to show it all today, but if you're interested, please check out the website. Take advantage of that opportunity. Again, this is for ASL, and we're looking at ASL boundaries. We want to know where sentence 1 ends and where sentence 2 begins. When they get to this screen, there is the video portion of it. The students will look at the video and it will be shown 2 times, the entire video. Then you'll see the pictures frozen, like postage stamp thumbnail sizes, because maybe they can't remember every sign that was done. So we give them a way to remember it because we have those frozen images on the paper. And once the ASL is gone from the main screen, they may not have the visual memory to know what the entire sentence said, so they can draw a line where sentence 1 ends and sentence 2 begins. We also have an evaluation, and it is challenging. These are examples of what the students get. You have, let me show you what the actual process looks like. Boy has flower, girl has ball. If you need the directions, he was saying that you can't always tell the difference, and so they're going to practice before they have to take the test. Now you saw this, and there's actually 2 separate sentences, but where do we decide? Boy has flowers, we have subject, we have predicate, okay? Girl has ball. That has a subject and a predicate. Aha, that's where the 2 separate sentences are. We're going to look at a couple of different sentences, and you need to determine where to separate that long stream into 2 separate sentences. Are you ready? Let me give you a couple of short examples. Cows walk, mosquitoes fly. Cows walk or run, mosquitoes fly. That's very simple, right? But as it gets progressively harder and harder as you go through the videos. I want to eat pizza. That's my favorite. I want to eat pizza. That's my favorite. So the idea here with this example, I want pizza. No, wait, what was it? Ooh, scary monster. Go to school bus. Yellow. I want to eat pizza. My favorite. Now you see that sentence really should have 2 complete ideas. I want to eat pizza being one, and my favorite, that is my favorite. And it looks like it pauses, but look at the first sentence. I want to eat pizza. That's good. My favorite. My favorite is not a complete sentence. There's no subject or predicate. If a student said to you, who doesn't know this background, my favorite, you'd say, what's your favorite? So boundaries are really important because I wanted to eat should be where it ends. Pizza is my favorite, which means we ignore the pause. Wait, do I do that? Well, let's not crunch our brains too much with this. Actually, some of these might have been designed as a foil, but let's look at the first. Is there a subject predicate or is there not? And the sentence, as I said, will become progressively harder and harder and more of a challenge to the students as they move through this portion. Now, the judgment is going to be the same process for English, whether it's well-formed, felicitous, or not. Now you look at the video. Tell me if that video that has sentences that are good, or are they not good? They're bad. You have a sheet of paper and you will circle your answer. And they're going to circle thumbs up or thumbs down. Boy have flower. That one's good. Fish. Colorful. Beautiful. Good. Old. There's not enough information. It's not good. Bird eats worms. Good. Blue. Now. Girl hair wave. That's not a good sentence. And so you'll see that the students will go through yes or no, good or bad. And the last part, when you look at the curriculum, we'll go through that briefly. Now, remember, you have a chance to go into the curriculum yourself. Don't forget, choose those anchor standards. Look at those. And then take a look in each side, inside each, because they have learning objectives. You pick one of those, and then you'll see, I picked one here, that is now a lesson plan that corresponds to that objective. We have teacher notes, very valuable. You have a video that supports this. We have examples for you. It keeps going on and on and on throughout the entire lesson, multiple examples, multiple explanations. And this is the worksheet that you might see for like hands-on work, maybe for the students who would use that in that particular lesson. Here's a chance for you to practice examples together. We have teacher view, and we example sentences of each objective. Library book, interesting. Library book, interesting. And this is exactly the same structure that you would find in the English portion. So let's flip to that. And here's how you get into the English part. And remember, you're going to do the benchmarks. Click on that. Here's an objective. Remember, pick any one. Find any objective you would like to explore. There you see the lesson plan and principles. You have the student objectives. We have the materials. You have the procedure. So you have a sequence. So you've got scope and sequence. You've got example sentences that are there ready for you. And then there's some additional work screens or for the students that need repetition or support or to enhance or embellish lessons, you can go on and on. And then at the end of the benchmarks, you see the formative assessment. And it tells you this is the end of benchmark 3. And remember, don't forget you have the summative assessment as well. So that's it in a nutshell. Let me see, how much time do I have for Q&A? All right, I know it's quick and dirty, but really, if you want to, please feel free to email us so that you can ask us more. I realize this was a lot to give you in a short amount of time. Oh, for the address here, let me see. Can you see the screen here where it says bgcasenglish@gmail.com? And remember, if you send an email to us, we'll provide you with a participant license. All right. Okay. All right. Use your camera, take a photo, save the address for later.
Many of you as have seen that there are so many resources and videos and assessments that Todd and Kristen have created. And it's very exciting because they were here at CSD. They hosted a workshop about their curriculum and the teachers were thrilled. I mean, Todd just mentioned that he recently left California yesterday. But the teachers were so excited about using the BGC. And so thank you so much for all of your hard work. Okay, so now it's our Q&A session. The first question, that license, how long is it good for?
Kristen, you want to answer that one?
Yes, so the license is good for one teacher. And that is good for 3 years. And you can use it with as many students as possible. But we also want to make it fair for the interests of teachers.
Itinerant.
Oh, itinerant teachers. So yes, the license is good for 3 years. Laura saying, thank you. Another question, really, I think it was 2 questions in one. Will this webinar be available to show and to watch later? Some people said that they wanted to show this webinar to the higher-ups to show them what a wonderful resource it is and so that they would be able to purchase it. And LTP here is saying, yes, the webinar is recorded and it will be uploaded. We will upload it to our website. And all of you who registered for this webinar, we will be emailing it to you as well. And another question, leading question, will this PowerPoint be available for us later? And
Todd is saying yes. I actually sent it to you, I think, Laura. I will send it to you, and then you can share it out. Thank you.
Right. Now, the next question, can you provide trainings? And how long is that training?
Well, actually, the answer is yes. You have to get a license, and then you will automatically get a pre-recorded video training. And I believe that it's 2 hours for English and 2 hours for ASL. In addition, you'll have access to the Google Drive document and all of the documentation, the materials that are in the website. And Kristen and I will be very supportive and have a 1-hour meeting, a sit down and talk to you about various things, explain things further so that you understand completely. And I want to just say that there's many schools, state schools and mainstream programs say, we want more than just this training. And then we say, of course, we can set up a training separately and come to you and do a detailed, lengthy training. So with the license, you'll get contact with us. You'll have video access. You'll have materials. There's all kinds of things ready for you to help you get through and be successful.
Great, thank you. And now this question is specifically about if you're working with a high school student who is severely language deprived, maybe has a first grade reading level, but they are a freshman in high school, can you use this curriculum to meet their needs? Kristen's saying yes, absolutely. And it's a great question. Now, again, Todd and I, we designed this curriculum thinking and developing not by grade level. Instead, we wanted to think about building the students' understanding and skills like a wall, like a brick wall, kind of putting the bricks together one by one. Because if there is no foundation, a strong foundation to build upon it, then we can't. And so that's why it doesn't matter how old the student is or what their background is. We need to ensure that they have a strong foundation, a strong wall that we can build upon of. So, and that is the way that we can ensure the students grow fast. And we need, time to build upon each skill in order for them to have the skills for the rest of their life. It's like imagine if a hearing student who focuses on phonology and for many, many years uses this phonological language because it's available to them. Well, we want to build those same skills for a deaf child, skills that they'll have for the rest of their life, not kind of just pushing them through the process, but rather ensuring that what they are learning is ingrained in them and will be applicable for the rest of their lives. And you can really modify this to be visual and to match the student's visual needs. And for the high school level, maybe we could use pictures that would interest a student. Yes, thank you so much, LTP is saying, for really going in depth about this curriculum. It's very exciting. Now, the next question is saying, somebody told that person that they will have to partner with an ASL teacher to use that BGC. I'm wondering if you can expand on that question a little bit. Do you need to have an ASL teacher in order to use this curriculum?
Well, Laura, I think that's a really great question. And I believe the intent, a major part of this, is that we wanted to make sure that we designed a curriculum. Because maybe if you just use this material and that's all that you can, that's fine. Every objective has signing samples ready, so you can be looking at them. Every objective, every assessment has a video portion that's ready for you. It'll explain to you what everything means, what the point of that lesson or the objective is. It's all laid out there for you. So yes, for sure, we want to make sure that it's a plug and play resource. Now, we do understand that ideally would be that you would have someone who teaches ASL, who is knowledgeable about ASL, be one of the instructor for this. But let's say, because we know that there are many programs out there, especially in the mainstream programs, they aren't really knowledgeable of ASL. They don't know how to talk about ASL. So we have resources to show them. So I guess in a nutshell, the answer is yes. But let me say another interesting note is that there are several programs that the children have to experience without any sign language at all. There's not a signing component anywhere. So let's say if somebody is a functionally hard of hearing student who doesn't sign in a mainstream program, and yet they still struggle with English, there are many programs who know that they have students like that. And so we say, well, why don't you flip it on its head and let's start with the ASL instruction first. And then hopefully they'll resort back to the English learning because they have some experience them, because it helps them learning their English. But it's really interesting to see the diversity of students and teachers and programs. But there are many, many varied programs out there that have applied our curriculum. Even if they are a master in ASL, BCG is for you.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question, if my student already has 100% on their assessments, is it okay to still start at level 1 or to jump to a different level? No, really. It's up to you, and you know your student the best. So it's important. Really, some teachers have told Todd and I, oh, my kid will be fine going through this curriculum quickly. And okay, but we don't want, to assume and that we want to give you this curriculum that has a summative assessment, and that way the student can take it. And when the student takes it, maybe you'll find out that the student actually doesn't know several things. And that is why this curriculum is about building sequentially. Now, Todd and I, we want to stop assuming that what our students do and do not know. And we want to make sure that a student is improving all the way. Therefore, the summative test is proof. And if the student is going through and passing their assessments, that's great. Laura's saying, thank you. And a little bit related to the previous question about the hard of hearing student, whether to start in ASL or English. So if they have strong English skills, can they start in English or ASL? Now, there's another question that talks about how to determine whether to start with English or ASL. How does an instructor figure out which language to start with?
Well, the easy answer to this would be almost always begin with ASL. Almost always. I mean, it makes sense. It doesn't happen very often that we have to start the other way around, but really, if we believe in this philosophy, I mean, what it means is we want to take advantage of the strengths. We want to see what language you have the most access to, because of course, for most deaf and hard of hearing student, visual access should be number one because they don't have access to the auditory language unless maybe they have a cochlear implant or some other way, but they have full access to signing, a visual language. So if the child could see, I just, putting it simply, that is their strength. Operate from there. But I know it will happen, and I'm sure you know of someone. They grew up and they functioned as if they were a hearing person, but their academic English writing skills are still a struggle and are limited. But they have maybe a strength in English, but they don't know sign language. Why would we say, nope, I'm sorry, you got to fit our structure? We say, no, take advantage of what you already know. And then, obviously, we'd want the children to learn sign for so many different reasons, cognitively, academic, social, lifelong learning and happiness and well-being. Yes. So I think that would be the easier answer. And of course, sometimes you operate on a case-by-case basis to make sure you're making the right decisions. But generally speaking, it would be ASL first. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, another question was, I just found out about the BGC, but how long has it been since it's been set up?
Let me see. The distribution as a curriculum and with a digital material, this is our third year, the beginning of our third year. However, the process of BGC started, let me see how far back, a long time ago, and it used to be a manual book. You had the same learning objectives and lessons, but Kristen is she's so knowledgeable. She's been at it for so many years. How many years have we been working on this? If you were to have summative of our years, it was a crazy number.
I'm not sure, at least over 20. But it's been about 10 years since the distribution. And LTV saying, Laura saying, yes, and Todd and Kristen have done so much work to really set up this curriculum. Now, this question is specific to the license. I think it's asking about starting when the license started. I think Kristen, you said 10 years ago, right? And then the other question talks about if the library buys this license, how that would work.
Well, it all depends. It all depends on how you preview and the licensing and all. We have to remember if it's 10 days or 2 weeks, and honestly, I'm not sure which, but you know what? We can always let them know, let's make it a 2-week license. And so that it will be stated as 2 weeks and get you in there so you can play around. And, so the website will open for you for 2 weeks and then it will be closed to you. And library and licenses, many licenses can't be shared, and therein lies the challenge for library licenses. So, we haven't figured out the algorithm for that, but let's say somebody says it's an IP address. Look at all these different IP addresses. That will raise a red flag and they might close the access. So you have to give a license to each individual teacher with their name and email address and so on. It's individually identified, which is easy to swap, change out. Let's say the person leaves teaching or retires from teaching. You can't trade it off. I mean, we have to have it individually identified for each license.
Right, thank you. And I think we only have about a minute left of this webinar. And I just want to repeat that we will share your email and contact information, as well as the PDF of this presentation and the website. We will send it out after this for those who registered for the webinar. I hope that I answered some of your questions. I know there were many, but for those questions that we did not have the chance to answer, I will give those questions to Kristen and Todd. So hopefully they can respond to you all in a group email.
That would be great. Thanks, Laura.
Kristen saying definitely. And Laura saying, but again, I want to thank the two of you for giving this presentation. And I want to thank the two interpreters. And it seems this core webinar was a success. And I'm very excited about this curriculum. And I really hope it spreads wide and far. Thank you so much for your work.
Sure, no
Kristen
problem.
saying
And
thank you.
thank you. It was such a great opportunity. There is one last thing. If you are interested in BCG and you have, if you want more information, there's info at that email address. So if you look on the website, you'll see it's info at instead of the full. It's so info at bcgasenglish.gmail.com.
Great, great, wonderful. Thank you so much, the two of you.
All right. Everyone have a good day.